Okay, so Joe Rogan has the internet going crazy. What else is new though, right? If you have not heard Joe Rogan, obviously one of the biggest voices, if not the biggest voice in the podcast space. He recently on a recent podcast basically said, hey, I'm rolling with Jesus. And of course, everyone has gone crazy. Everyone has been speculative. Has he gotten saved? Has he changed his tune? Because remember, this is a guy who's been very critical of Christianity over the years. Let's find out if this is a new tune for Joe Rogan.
I'm sticking with Jesus on that one. Like, Jesus makes more sense. The difference between science and religion is that science only asks you for one miracle. I want you to believe in one miracle, the Big Bang.
Yeah.
It's funny because people would be incredulous about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but yet they're convinced that the entire universe was smaller than the head of a pin, and for no reason that anybody's adequately explained to me. It makes sense.
Yeah. No.
Instantaneously became everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't buy that.
I'm sticking with Jesus on that one. Like, Jesus makes more sense.
Hey, shout to Proper XL. They clipped that up. That is from a much longer conversation on a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. So, full transparency, Joe Rogan isn't really my cup of tea like that. He's not a guy that I listen to regularly, but he is a guy that I absolutely respect and a guy that you kind of pay attention to. But he's not someone that I just listen to their podcast because I feel like listening to a podcast today, right? But that said, I wanted to talk about this because I think there's a much, much deeper thing going on. We all have our favorite celebrities. We all have people that, as believers, we think about, man, it would be dope if that person got saved. It would be amazing. And we want everyone to get saved, but I'm just saying when it's your favorite celebrity, somebody you follow, but they may not be a believer, you have an extra little thing. And I've seen so many people online say, man, I'm praying for Joe Rogan. I hope he comes around. I hope God moves on his heart. I hope the right thing gets said to him that makes, the little click, the light bulb click in his head. And I just want to encourage those people to keep praying. Maybe it's not you. Maybe it's someone you know, someone in your family. Maybe it's your husband. Maybe it's one of your friends, and they're really tapped into Joe Rogan. I know I felt the same way about Kanye West over the years, and I felt like we had the biggest pump fake ever with Kanye because it really did seem like he was on that path. And then, this is why, and it's funny, I've been studying this recently. The Apostle Paul, it took him 14 years before he started his public ministry after his conversion. And the reason being is people had to trust him. The other leaders had to trust him. That's a whole other conversation. But I just want to encourage you guys to keep praying for Joe Rogan. Because here's a couple more clips. I just want you to see over the years, this is kind of how some of Joe Rogan has evolved. Because just a year ago, people were having the same conversation when he said this on a podcast.
A lot of people's moral compass and the guidelines that they've used to follow to live a just and righteous life has come from religion. And unfortunately, a lot of very intelligent people, they dismiss all of the positive aspects of religion because they think that the stories are mere superstitious fairy tales that, they have no place in this modern world, and, we're inherently good and your ethics are based on your own moral compass and we all have one. And that's not necessarily true. We need Jesus. I think for real. Like, if he came back now, it'd be great. Like, Jesus, if you're thinking about coming back
right now,
now's a good time.
Pretty soon. Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? Reacting to that clip. He's a comedian, so there's going to be an element of humor. But he did say we need Jesus. Now, this isn't like an outward profession of faith. I'm making Jesus Lord of my life, and I'm submitting, and I'm putting down the old me, and I'm living the way God wants me to live. That wasn't that. But there is an acknowledgement that we need Jesus, right? And here's one more. Here's one more. Wow. when you hear those clips, that doesn't sound like the guy who was overly critical when he kind of first started his podcast career and he started blowing up of Christianity. It doesn't sound like the same guy. It sounds like a guy, even in his jest, even in his, his whole thing, that he is at least open to the fact that there is something greater than him in the world. And family, sometimes these things take steps. It's not just an overnight conversion. I can tell you, me personally, this is just me. I grew up in the church, was in the church my entire life, heard the gospel every Sunday, was in youth group, sang in the choir, but I did not have a relationship with Jesus. And here's the thing, family. It took one moment. It took a book that someone put in my hand and hearing a testimony from someone I respected. And I said, oh, if they're giving up all of this, everything that I'm chasing, I need to reconsider my life. And then I saw that person in action, in the ministry. It changed everything for me. That's what worked for me. It's different for everyone. So I'm saying all that to say, I don't know what's going to be the thing or what would be the thing for Joe Rogan or Kanye West or your favorite celebrity. But what I want to encourage you to do is continue to pray for them, because you never know how God is moving.